Hey guys, it's Emo here. I'm gonna make a video now, and here it is. Hope you guys enjoy it. I'm gonna tell you now it's gonna be long, but I suggest you watch the whole thing. I'm gonna include everything to do with rogue changes that relate to combat, the rogue class in general, and little changes here and there that will affect both PvP and PvE. So I hope you guys enjoy it, and here we go. You guys might know the meme where the guy turned his cat with taxidermy. He taxidermied his dead cat and he turned it into an actual remote control helicopter. Well, this is the Blizzard version. Here we are. Oh my god, it's a fox and it's flying. Oh my god. Oh my god. It's a flying fox. Get it? Flying fox? Yeah, Blizzard's got some serious issues, eh? But yeah, it's fun to control. It lasts only like 30 seconds. Maybe, yeah, about 40 seconds. And it can attack too, it does about 10k damage each hit, which is pretty good. I mean, that's as much as like an auto attack. But yeah. Now, but you have to listen to the whole thing if you want the details on rogues. I'm going to try to talk as fast as I can, so bear with me, guys. Oh dear. Okay. Well, I'll turn the sound up on the video. I'll try and talk closer to the mic so you can hear me. Basically, there are a lot of changes in MoP. I'll start off with the guild changes. There's no longer any sort of summoning with the guild. They don't have that guild summon thing anymore, so you can't do that. Also, they have like these cross realms. They got auto loot, which auto loot's in the game now, so it's really good. Sorry, AoE loot I meant to say. And by AoE loot, I mean literally AoE loot. Like anything within 10 yards of you gets looted, and it's not just like, it's seriously like a 10-yard range. It's like further range than my Phantom Knives. So it's like this already. That's how far the corpses are when you loot them with AoE loot. It's really good. There's another thing called cross-server realms. It's like cross-server world realms. There's a couple of zones. Like, major cities aren't included in this because otherwise it'll be too packed. But like outside major cities, like in the whole of Durotar, or like all these zones here. In fact, all these zones. In fact, like the whole map. Everything apart from major cities. They have like this thing where like all the realms are linked. They only have for a couple realms right now in beta to test it out, because there's a few issues with it, but in general it works quite flawlessly. You basically can invite these people to a group, you can duel them, you can talk to them. You can't whisper them or add them to a friends list, but I'm sure with Real ID you can be able to do that. But you can party with them, and you can see them, and you can interact with them. You can't trade across realms, so sorry about that, but it's still good to be able to play with someone who's on another realm. Combat's changed a bit. There's no kick silence anymore. Our sprint no longer breaks CCs in terms of roots and slows. Our deadly throw now requires 5 combo points to interrupt the target. All our range attacks are now 30 yards instead of 40 yards. What else has changed? Shiv has changed. Shiv is now 20 energy costs no matter what weapon you have. It's a 10-second cooldown now. 10 seconds. Also, it can be blocked, dodged, and parried, so it no longer goes through things. It still removes enrage effects, and it applies your non-lethal poison. Poisons have changed. You now have 1 lethal poison and 1 non-lethal poison. In terms of deadly poisons, it's no longer 5 stacks, and no longer stacking up to 5 times. It's just 1 stack of poison dot for 12 seconds, and then any reapplication of the poison does nature damage instantly. Instant poison and wounding poison have been combined to cause instant poison. It procs on the enemy, but it also does nature damage. It's a 15-second debuff with 25% reduced healing. Crippling's changed. It's now 50% chance of poisoning, and it's now 50% movement speed decrease for 12 seconds instead of 70%. They made it so that when you shiv, it has an increased effect on your non-lethal poisons. So for mind numbing, it's a 50% slowed casting on the target. But if you were to use your mind numbing with a shiv, it increases the next spell cast by 100% duration. And if you were to shiv with crippling, it decreases the movement speed by 70% instead of 50%. So they made shiv more utilitarian. For expose, they changed it so it generates combo points a bit like, and it works a bit like Fairy Fire now. It costs 25 energy, melee range, spammable, and yeah, it generates combo points and it gives you 4% increased armored pen by 3 times for 30 seconds. What else is there? That's all I can think of right now. Oh, there's also PvP power now in gear. There's no set bonuses on the level 90 PvP gear, but what happens here is you have the PvP resilience and PvP power. Now there's no more spell penetration in the game, so they replaced that with something called power, battle power and PvP power. As you can see, the enchant on my cloak, and there's also a gem here. Stormy Ocean Sapphire now is 40 battle power. That's about 0.2% actually increased damage as battle power. 50 battle power is about 0.2% increased damage. That's raw damage. Now PvP resilience is basically the normal resilience, reduced damage taken by players and their minions and pets. But PvP power increases your damage done to the enemy, to enemy players by a certain percentage. Now gears with PvP resilience also usually have PvP power. You can't reforge into it, but you can gen and enchant it. Also, PvP power increases your healing done to friendly players, and including yourself, in PvP zones. So it's like world PvP if you're engaged in PvP. That also means arena. That also means battlegrounds. So it increases your healing done to players. To be honest, I don't think this is very good. I think it should increase healing done to yourself, but to other players I don't think it should increase. I think the increase of PvP power should be based on the person's gear. So if someone has like 50% PvP power and there's someone healing them, then they get 50% increased healing. But if the person healing them had like PvE gear and they were healing themselves, and they only have like 10% PvP power, then they'll only heal themselves with 10%. If that makes sense. That's what I think it should be like, but you know, whatever. A few other changes would have to be the gear. Lots of the gear is mastery on it now. Now, as combat, you might think that, you know, I used to stack crit, that was the way to go, but for now, I figured out that I automatically get a few things from being combat, so I'll go through the changes for rogues in general. Now, we got a few abilities that are quite nice. I'm using this glyph right now called Detection. Now, this glyph is fantastic. It's really an amazing glyph. It increases your stealth detection, so like, it's not passive, it's an actual cast. Like you can see here, it's called Detection. It's got the map marker sign symbol. Now, if I pop Detection, it's got no energy cost, it's instant cast, and has no cooldown. Lasts for 10 seconds. So I just pop Detection, and it gives me a wider detection range and increased detection level. I think it's increased by like 1 level, but it's still a good bonus, especially since I can increase movement speed while in stealth. Now, I also got this other thing called Shadow Walk, which increases my stealth effectiveness significantly. So I think this is 2 levels of stealth. It's a 1-minute cooldown, instant cast, and you have to be in stealth to use it. Another cool stealth item we got is Shroud of Concealment. Now, this is instant cast, 5-minute cooldown, requires stealth. All rogues get these abilities, by the way. What this does is it stealths anyone who's in your party or raid for within 20 yards, and it lasts for 15 seconds. So as you can see, this is the AoE. If any one of my party members are in it, they'll become stealthed if they're inside it. Also, if they were to attack something, I think if they're in combat it breaks the stealth, but if they're using a spell or ability it breaks the stealth. However, even if it breaks the stealth, they get re-stealthed 1 second after that if they're not in combat. So it's a really good ability and I love it. It's got so many applications, like it's insane. What are some other things? Basically, also on top of that, we get this new ability called Shadow Blades. They changed our recoup, so it's 3% of your maximum health every 3 seconds. Costs 30 energy to use. Same combo point usage. We got this ability called Shadow Blades, which I'll show you. If I can find it. Here it is. Shadow Blades. 3-minute cooldown, instant cast. What it does is it adds shadow damage to your attacks for 12 seconds, your auto attacks, and it also increases your combo point generation by 1 every ability. So say Sinister Strike generates 1 combo point, it will be 2 combo points, and on top of that all my auto attacks will do increased damage because they get shadow damage after every combo, every auto attack. Also on top of this, your Killing Spree also procs your Shadow Blades, so Shadow Blades plus Killing Spree is quite a deadly combo. I mean, if I pop all my cooldowns and pop Killing Spree, I think I do about probably between 200 and 300k damage on a target in full resilience. Let's say about leather, he's in leather gear. I'll probably do about 250k damage on him, around about there. Now I have 370k health, and I'm in full level 90 PvP gear. There's no set bonuses right now because it's beta, but I'm sure they'll add them in later. But I'm in 370k health. So Killing Spree with all my cooldowns does about 250k damage. And then I do say a couple of eviscerates or get a couple of crits off, then they're pretty much dead in the Killing Spree. Even if they're in full PvP gear. So it's quite deadly. In terms of gear, what I'm stacking now is I'm going 30% mastery. I want my mastery be about 30%. And I'll show you why. Now, I've shown you all the class changes in general, so I'll show you the combat specific changes. Oh, and by the way, I'm going to tell you guys now, if you are not undead in Mr. Pandaria, you have serious mental issues. We keep our Cannibalize, which is 35% health over 10 seconds. We keep our Will the Forsaken, 2-minute cooldown, pretty much breaks fear, sleep effects, and charm effects as well. Shared cooldown with our trinket. But we also keep our shadow resistance. Reduce shadow damage taken by 1%. Now there's no more spell pen in the game. Instead we got battle power and PvP power. Now we get it on gems and enchants. Now I've already explained battle power, but there's no spell pen, so having reduced shadow damage is quite decent even if it's only 1%. Now, if you look here, we also get a new racial, a new undead racial. Touch of the Grave, passive. Your attacks and damaging spells, this includes dots and bleeds, have a chance to drain the target, dealing 13.6k shadow damage and healing you for the same amount. What this means is it's a lifesteal. It's like the lifesteal enchant. You basically do around 14 or 13k damage, and you get healed for 14 to 13k. Now with 370k health, my recoup ticks for about 11k. So if I stack this proc with my recoup, it's still a decent amount. And then on top of that, I pop lifeblood from my herbalism, and it's still a decent amount. Whew, that's a lot of words. Okay, let's go into passives. Guys. Now, combat had a lot of changes. I think I've already told you about the kick silence was removed, the snare breakage from sprint was removed, the deadly throw is now a talent spec with the spec into, and it requires 5 combo points to interrupt the target. But we also got some new ability called Crimson Tempest. This is for all specs. 35 energy melee range. It's a bit like combining Eviscerate, Fan of Knives, and Rupture in one. If you have any combo points on any target, you basically use this, and it does like certain damage to anything in 8 yards. And it also adds a bleed on them for 30% of that damage, but for 12 seconds. So it's a bit like Hemo, except combined with Eviscerate, and it's got Fan of Knives as well because it's AoE. That's Crimson Tempest. I'll use it, and I'll show you the animation right here. I got no combo points in this guy, but I got combo points on the Raptor. So if I were to pop Crimson Tempest, it gets hit. It also gets a bleed for 30% of that damage. It's not much damage, but I mean, if you're in a raid or something, I guess the damage is decent, especially if you have Blade Flurry up. Another change is Phantom Knives. It's a 10-yard range. It's relatively the same damage, except they changed it so that it adds a combo point. Like if you have multiple targets around you, and that if you hit the target you're targeting with Phantom Knives, you don't need a target to use Phantom Knives. But if you hit the target that you're using Phantom Knives on, and it hits them, you get a combo point for every time it hits them. So you can like spam Phantom Knives and then use Crimson Tempest, and they'll do a massive AoE, which is decent, I guess. Now, I'll start off with abilities later, but I'll do my passives now. Now, as combat we get Vitality, your energy regeneration rate is increased by 20%, and your attack power is increased by 25% total. Currently, Mutilate is relatively crap in terms of energy regen, despite all the bleed procs. Sub is average energy regen. It's not as good as it was before, but it's still okay-ish, and Combat's the best energy regen right now. Swiftblade's Cunning, every rogue gets this. It's basically replaced Owner Among Thieves, except every spec gets this now. It's basically 10% increased range and melee attack speed within 100 yards for all party members, including yourself. Safe Fall. Main Gouge is Mastery. Your main hand attacks have a chance to do damage, to proc a damage equal to 120% of your main hand attack. So basically slow main hand would be great, and I'm stacking Mastery right now. Well, not stacking it, but what I did was I capped my Mastery at 30%. Not capped it, but like I went up to 30% Mastery and then decided not to stack any more than that. Basically, we also get another thing from being combat, and that would be combat potency right here. Your main gouge, successful main gouge and offhand attacks have a chance to generate 15 energy. Now, if I pop Slice and Dice for 40% attack speed, and then I have 30% mastery, this actually procs a lot, the combat potency. Now, we don't automatically get this as combat, we don't have to spec into it, we automatically get it as combat. If you have a slower offhand, it's got a higher chance to proc combat potency when you have an offhand attack successfully hit the target. And my mate did the calculations, and basically using a slow offhand makes this proc even more, so it's better than using an offhand dagger, which is great because that increases your killing spree damage. And killing spree also procs main gouge as well from your mastery, so, and combat potency because it hits with an offhand as well. So you get a lot of energy when you pop your killing spree now. And even when you just use Slice and Dice and auto attack, it still generates a lot of energy. We got Bandit's Guile, same thing as was before, except what they did was stacks up to 3 times, 30% increased damage total from all abilities, but they changed it so it procs more often and it's more solid now. It's not a random chance, it's really quite solid. If you're attacking a target, it will definitely keep proccing and stack up. It's more reliable than it was before. And also, it doesn't get removed when you swap targets. Like you can get Bandit's Guile on a target and have the buff, and then go to the next target, and you still have Bandit's Guile. So you don't have to worry about that. Ambidextry, increase offhand damage by 75%. Now my glyph that I was talking about is here. Is detection. And you can use it when you're not on stealth as well, by the way. Dirty Tricks is my spec, I'll go into that later. Parry, Elusiveness is from my specs, I'll go into it later. All rogues get fleet-footed and get Relentless Strikes. Now fleet-footed is 15% movement speed, doesn't affect with anything else. They removed the increased healing. And Relentless Strikes, same as was before. Your finishing moves have a 20% chance per combo point to restore 25 energy, so 5-point combos or even 4-point combos will generate 25 energy. Will have a high chance anyway. Leather specialization, 5% agility when you're wearing all leather, same as was before. Every rogue gets Master Poisoner. Target takes 5% more spell damage when you have them poisoned. That's from all sources, so from friendly targets as well. Restless Blade, same as was before. Your Adrenaline Rush, Killing Spree, Redirect, and Sprint reduced by 2 seconds on their cooldown every time you use a combo point. They changed this because it doesn't affect Dismantle anymore, but it still affects your sprint. And that's all the passives. Now I'll go for the actual abilities. Blade Flurry has 30% reduced energy regeneration on it, same as was before in terms of that it hits another target, except you can't glyph for it anymore, so PvE might be a bit screwed in that regard. Adrenaline Rush, exact same as before, 20% attack speed, 100% regen, 15 seconds, 3 minute cooldown. Detection's my glyph. Blind, same as before. It now changed. They changed the tooltip for this actually for blind. If you blind someone who's in stealth, it doesn't actually break their stealth. If you blind something when you're in stealth, you don't break stealth either. That's a new change. So you can blind someone while you're still in stealth and you won't break stealth, like it won't break you out of stealth. So you won't have to worry about that. Also, they changed tooltips so it actually lasts for a minute on mobs now. What else has changed? That's about it on this page. Cheap Shot, 4 seconds as a stun now instead of 3 seconds, and you can glyph for it, so it's a 5-second stun. So as mutilate in combat, this not even as mutilate, as sub, sorry, this would be very nice if you glyph it. Gouge is now 4 seconds instead of 6 seconds as combat. 10-second cooldown. Kick is now 15-second cooldown instead of 10 seconds, which is quite gay. They recently buffed our Sinister Strike damage as well, as rogues. Exposed armor was changed, as I said before. Killing spree is pretty much the same. 7 assaults every 0.5 seconds, 10-yard range. Increased damage done by 20% for the duration. You can't hit invisible stealth targets now. You have to. I think you have to actually see them. Garrote's relatively the same. Feint was changed. Sorry. Feint now lasts for 5 seconds and has no cooldown, but uses 20 energy. So you can like spam it. I'll show you a spec later that I'm using. Oh, they appear to be killing a human rogue. Oh look, he's hacking. Sorry, I had to go gank a mage. Continuing on with the video. Feint was changed, as you saw. Shadow Blades is there. Shadow Walk recuperates now 3% max health every 3 seconds. Redirect's the same. Shiv was changed. Revealing Strike got changed. It's combat only as well. You know that already. But they changed the way it works, the mechanics. Basically, they combined it with the glyph of Sinister Strike, but you can't glyph Revealing Strike anymore, so it's only 35% increased effectiveness on your attacks. So it's 35% increased damage and effectiveness on your offensive attacks, so like stuns 8.1 seconds as Kidney Shot on 5 points instead of 6 seconds. Your eviscerates will do 35% more damage, etc, etc. It bleeds as well if you use Rupture. But they combine it with the glyph of Sinister Strike. So if you have Revealing Strike on the target, basically what happens is it lasts for 18 seconds, and it puts a debuff on them, so when you use the finishing move it doesn't actually remove it anymore. And they can't dispel it, so it lasts for 18 seconds no matter what. But on top of this, they also made it so that your Sinister Strike has a chance to generate an extra combo point when they have Revealing Strike on the target. So it's a bit like Chemo in the respect that you want to get Revealing Strike up straight away and then do Sinister Strikes, because it will increase your damage output in the long run. Now I'll show you Shriek and Toss later in my spec. Sinister Strike's relatively the same, got a damage buff though. Smoke Bomb's the same. And that's about it. Everything else is pretty much the same, guys. Whew, that took a while. Okay, so basically, Blade Flurry components killing spree. This is new to set up for like when you first want to choose a spec. It's like this. You have to go to the trainer to reset your spec, but there's assassination, combat, And subtlety. You. Also, they got like this weird thing inside the tab itself. It's like core abilities and like shows you main attacks and what's changed. So I'm not sure if I said this, but every dagger is now 1.8 speed. There's no 1.4 or 1.6 speed daggers. So that's a major change. Yeah, that's basically it. Trying to think of something else. Lifeblood now gives 2k haste for 20 seconds. 2-minute cooldown. I haven't leveled my alchemy because there's like 3 whole zones of herbs missing. So I can't actually gather the herbs required to level my alchemy, so I'll make alchemy videos with like all my mad potions later. For now though, I can go ahead and make this alchemy potion. Grants 400 agility for 25 seconds. And make a macro with that to link it to my trinket, which is 5k agility for 20 seconds. So I get 9.1k agility for 20 seconds whenever I pop my macro with my trinket and my potions. Now what this does is, it's amazing actually, because it increases my damage by nearly double. I have like about 11.6k agility right now. And now if I pop them both, I'll probably be at, let's see this, 21.2k agility. That's insane. I'm pretty much doubling my agility. And that puts my crit chance up to 23% when I pop them both as well. Normally I'm only about like 15 point something percent. Yeah, 15.4% crit normally. Now what I'm doing for my gears, I'm stacking mastery. Up to what I did was I capped my hit chance at 3%. The cap's now 3%. So I capped my hit chance at 3%, capped my expertise at 3%, and then after that I stacked mastery until I had 30% mastery. Now, you're mastering nearly every gear, so it's pretty easy to stack. And then after that I went for solid crit right after that. So I got my mastery up to 30%, and then I stacked crit. I got, in my gem slots, I got 40 agility for my red slots, 20 agility and 20 crit for my yellow slots, and for my blue slots I got pure battle power. Now battle power is that increased damage against players thing. Okay, so back to the spec. Combat here, bam, select, and they got all these talents. Now, you guys can look up the talent. You guys can like just Google MoP beta talent trees, and it'll come up with these talent trees. I'm going to say now, like going combat or sub and mutilate's up to you. I suggest going combat because it's the most NG regen, it's the most solid damage. Sub's alright right now, but it's got less mobility, and the crippling nerf really fucked up sub in terms of locking the enemy down. You can still play sub if you're good, but you need shadow step. You have to choose between prep and shadow step, which is a real issue. And mutilate right now just doesn't have the NG regen enabled to keep up the damage, so mutilate's pretty much useless right now. From what I've seen anyway. They might buff it later, but for now it's relatively crap. Okay, well I'll just briefly discuss like the talents, and then I'll go into like what I actually selected later on. So now I'll just read out all the talents, and here we go. Starting from the right to left, sorry, I'll be doing. First row, Shadow Focus. Abilities no longer cost energy when you're in stealth. Pretty average. Subterfuge. Your stealth breaks 3 seconds after damaging or receiving hostiles' actions, rather than doing so immediately. So if I were to cheap shot something, I'll have 3 seconds of stealth after that cheap shot before my stealth breaks. Like I can still keep my stealth bar. I'm still able to like ambush spam them if I wanted to, if I was sub, for example. And yeah, that's pretty good, especially as mutilate, because you can cheap shot and garrote someone at the same time, which is really, really handy. Now, I don't do this as combat because I don't need to, because my kidney shots last for 9 seconds, so I really don't need the extra, stun duration. Cheap shots now are 4-second duration instead of 3 seconds, and you can glyph to make it 5 seconds, so for sub and mutilate, that's pretty good. And then there's Night Stalker. Increase speed while stealth by 20%. I like this because when I combine it with my sprint, I move at nearly mount speed. This is ground mount speed, it's actually 204% speed. The ground mount's 210%, so if I distract them, I can actually move faster than them when they're on their mount. It also helps against other rogues, especially when you use detection and shadow walk. because it means I can get the sap off way faster than they can, because I move faster. Now, I use the deadly throw glyph, but here from the right we got combat readiness, which is the same as before, except it doesn't share the cooldown with the claws anymore. It doesn't share cooldown with Cloak of Shadows. Then we got nerve strike, which is a bit like blackjack. A successful kidney shot or cheap shot reduces the damage the target deals by 50% for 6 seconds after the stun ends. So like I stun someone, and then after the stun ends, there's 6 seconds of them doing 50% less damage. This is actually really good. I'd love that. I would totally use that as sub or melee. Right now I'm using Deadly Throw. It got nerfed a bit. It's now only 30-yard range. The damage got nerfed a bit. And also, it still has the slow, 50% slow for 6 seconds, which is why I want it. But in order to interrupt a cast, you actually need 5 combo points on the target. And I'll show you down at Shuriken Toss later on how it works. Now we got Elusiveness here. Your Feint ability also reduces all damage taken by 30% for 7 seconds. It's actually 5 seconds, sorry. Reduces all damage taken from all sources by 30% for 5 seconds. I'll show you my spec later on. I'll go into detail about it and show you why I'm using it. For now, I'll just go through the talents. Now, Leeching Poison is the middle row. Leeching Poison, 3-second cast, lasts for 1 hour. Your melee attacks have a 50% chance to poison the target. This doesn't proc from bleeds. It does not proc from bleeds. Your subsequent weapon strikes against the poison target will heal you for 10% of damage dealt. Now basically what this means is once you have this poison on the target, it replaces your crippling slot. So instead of having crippling, you only have leeching. You can use crippling, but you have to choose between crippling or leeching poison in terms of applications, because you only have 2 poisons at once. One lethal, as in damaging, and one non-lethal. Leeching poison counts as a non-lethal poison. So basically it heals you for 10% of all your damage when you have it on the target. And when you shiv with it, it instantly restores 5% of your max health. Now I've tried this a bit, but I rather have the crippling poison because I want dirty tricks, so I'll show you my spec later on. Leeching Poison, yeah, there it is. Now it's Cheat Death on the very left. It reduces all damage taken by 80% instead of 90% now. And it's got a 90-second internal cooldown. Same as was before though in terms of like how you survive with it. Next row, Burst of Speed. 60 energy cost and it's an instant cast with no cooldown. Increases movement speed by 70% for 4 seconds, and if you have a movement impairing effect on you or any roots, it removes them and also makes you immune to their reapplication. It's basically like the old rogue sprint for combat, like that makes you immune to any CC in terms of like roots and stuff, but this also makes you immune to their reapplication. This has no cooldown and 60 energy and it's instant. So it's pretty good. Like I'll show you right now. This is basically how it works. Let's see, it costs 60 energy. That's actually a big chunk of energy, and the speed's not like great. I wonder if you can use it in stealth. Oh, you can. No, you can't use it in stealth, so it's not that great. Next thing in the bar is Shadow Step. 24-second cooldown, 25-yard range, 70% increased movement speed for 2 seconds after you Shadow Step to the target. And it's Shadow Step in general. Now, this doesn't increase your damage from your ambushes or anything like that, so I'm not sure if it's really worth it as any spec, but I'd use this as sub because you have to have it as sub. It pretty much makes sub so much easier to play. And then you have Preparation, which what I'm using as combat. They changed Preparation so it doesn't reset your Smoke Bomb. However, you can glyph a Smoke Bomb, so instead of 5 seconds, it lasts for 7 seconds. But here's Preparation. 5-minute cooldown, instant cast. Resets your Sprint, Vanish, Cloak of Shadows, Evasion, and Dismantle abilities. And yes, that was Cloak of Shadows, so you have 2 Cloak of Shadows now, which is really great. And 2 Evasions as well, so, you know, that's great for survival. Next row, Dirty Tricks. Your Gouge, Blind no longer have an energy cost, which means you could just spam them. They still have the cooldown though, so you can't really spam it, but it costs no energy, which makes your reaction times much better. And they no longer break from bleed or poison effects from you. That's not from teammate. If your teammate bleeds them, it's still going to break it. But they don't break from poison or bleed effects from you. So this is really good because you can use like the Sanskrit on a mage and then you can gouge him the next second. And if you're playing mutilate, you can like bleed the target and then gouge and then blind. If they trinket a stun, you can blind them and you still do damage through it because your dot's ticking. Next one over, paralytic poison. Again, this is a non-lethal poison. It replaces the slot that you use your crippling for. Coats your weapon for 1 hour. Each strike has a 20% chance to poison the enemy for 15 seconds. It stacks up to 5 times. Once it reaches 5 stacks, it stuns them for 4 seconds. This stun does not share DRs with your cheap shot or kidney shot right now. I'm not sure if they change it or not, but it doesn't share DRs for now because it's like a magic effect. When you shiv them, when you have paralytic poison up, it roots them in place for 4 seconds. It's quite a good poison. You guys might want to use it. It's entirely up to you. Like I said, any of these specs in terms of like talents here is entirely up to your own gameplay. Do with it what you want. It's based on your combo, based on how you play. It's really just there for fun, to be honest. I mean, it's not really game changing, most of these things. Like some of them are, but half the ones that are here are really just like how you want to do it. Whatever, it's going to work no matter what, as long as you're used to it. Next one is Deadly Brew. Same thing as it was before. Every time you have non-lethal poison on the target, it applies crippling. So if you apply a mind-numbing poison, paralytic, or leeching poison on the target, it will also add a crippling poison on top of that. Keep in mind there is a 1 second delay before the crippling poison activates, so it's not instant. It's got like a 1 or 2 second delay. It's like longer than a global cooldown. Next row, Anticipation. Now, this uses a lot of words. I'll try to sum it up for you guys. Basically how this works is once you have 5 combo points on the target, you get a buff on yourself which lasts for 15 seconds. And every combo point you have that you generate on the target that's over 5 combo points, you get a buff on yourself for 1 stack. And it stacks up to 5 times. So effectively you can have about 10 combo points on the target. Now the only way you can reapply these combo points that you have as a buff onto the target is if you used up the combo points on the target that you already have on the target on a finishing move. Say I have 5 combo points on this Scorpion here, and I have 5 stacks of the thing because I generate 10 combo points. If I use Slice and Dice, it's a non-lethal, non-offensive move. Or if I use Recuperate, it won't reapply these stacks. Okay, you have to actually after you use like Slice and Dice, you can actually hit them again with like Sinister Strike, and then use like a bleed or a stun on them, or like eviscerate, and that will actually then add the 5 combo points you have here onto the target. So it only works for attack offensive moves. So I'm not sure if that's even worth it. Like, it's pretty hard to set up. Now the next one is Versatility, which is good for PvE. Your redirect has no cooldown, which means you can keep swapping targets and stuff, and dead body, swap targets into new body, you know, same sort of bullshit. Next you have Shriek and Toss, which is what I love. I mean, they changed Throw, so that it throws like a random dagger. It's got 0.5 second cast, but it does like 200 damage, so it's not really worth it. But Shriek and Toss is pretty insane. Uses 20 energy, 30 yard range, no cooldown, instant cast. It does about 10k damage, and it generates combo points. So like, say there's a target here, boom, Shriek and Toss, 10k, Shriek and Toss, 10k, 20k crit. And if you're wondering how much this hits on actual like people instead of low level mobs, it actually does about 8k per hit on people in full resilience. So it's actually decent damage. Keep in mind it is physical damage, but I mean this keeps our combo points. So you can like spam it on the target as they're getting away and then use Deadly Throw. Also, Shriek and Toss does apply your poisons, so you can get a crippling proc from it. And you can get a wounding proc or whatever damaging poison you have. This is where the 5-point interrupt from Deadly Throw comes in, because you can stack up Shriek and Tosses quite quickly. And I guess that's how they designed the mechanic to work. They want you to stack up the Shriek and Tosses. So yeah, it's spammable. Only costs 20 energy, so you can spam it heaps. I mean, it's just like a shiv, or like, it's better than exposed armor in terms of gain combo points. Also, it's got no range in terms of, like, it's got no dead zone. Like, it's got 30 yard, it's got up to a 30-yard range, but you can be standing on the target and you can still spam shriek and toss. So say there's like a raptor here, I'm right in front of it, can spam shriek and toss. That's basically it for now. Okay, now I'm gonna go through my spec. So I already sort of explained it, but yeah, what I'm doing. Oh, I'll show you glyphs. Blah 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 blah. Hemoglyph. It doesn't apply hemo unless you already have a bleed on the target. Killing spree glyph, minor glyph. After you use killing spree, you return to your original location. That's actually really useless. Stealth, reduced cooldown by. What I'm using right now is. Oh, there's also a sensor strike glyph for PvE. Deals 25% more damage, but costs 25% more energy. So for about 13 more energy, you do probably like 13. If it costs 13 more energy, you do like, I don't know, like 5k more damage, maybe 8k. It's not really worth it though, because it costs 40 energy already, so it's already a high energy cost move, and it's not really worth like having that much energy cost on something. You can't spam it as much, so it's completely useless. Plus, it means like if you spam Sinister Strike less, means you have less chance to crit, less chance to proc your mastery and main gouge. Combat potency will proc less if you spam it less. So in the end, you want more procs. Now, I went for Garrote because I want the silence, so it's got 4.5 second silence. Went for Stealth because it reduces the stealth cooldown. I went for Feint because it increases my feint duration by 2 seconds. And now I'll go to this and show you why. Night Stalker, I'm using this 20% increased movement speed while on stealth, so that when I pop the sprint, I'm moving at nearly mount speed. That helps with detection a lot because I can see rogues way quicker before they see me, and then Shadow Walk, so I have increased stealth so they can't actually get me. It also helps to, like, when you use Shadow Concealment, it means like your friends can be mounted, you can be in stealth and sprinting, and you move the same speed as them, so you move the same speed as a ground mount. Also, why I'm using the glyph, because look at this, I'm not stealthed, I'm stealthed, I'm not stealthed, and I'm stealthed again, I'm not stealthed, I'm stealthed again. If I run through Death and Decay, I can basically, like, re-stealth before the DK can even target me, so it helps a lot, like, in that regard. Like, if you get taken out from something, you can easily re-stealth, as long as you know in combat. You can also bait people, they can unstealth, and they think, oh, he's got 10 seconds on stealth, he's not gonna be able to stealth, and I'll be like, oh, yeah, you get owned, and then sap him. So that works out in lots of baiting and PvP ganking. Keep in mind, I usually just, like, gank and stuff with this spec. If I was doing arena, I might change my spec a little, but for PvP battlegrounds and ganking, this is I love this spec. Now, second row, I'm getting Deadly Throw right now. I might change this and get, like, Nerve Strike, or even Combat Readiness, I'm not sure yet. I'm still fiddling around with it, but for now I'm getting Deadly Throw. Over in the next row, I'm still getting Leeching Poison, which I don't really find reliable enough in terms of heals. I'm using Elusiveness. Your Feint has reduced damage taken by 30%, and because I glyph for it, it's 7 seconds instead of 5 seconds. So it's actually decent. If I refresh this every 8 seconds, I take 30% less damage in general, and 50% less from AoE. So it makes me survive for much longer as combat. I get Prep, obviously, because I like it. I don't like Burst of Speed because the energy cost is too much. By the time I get to the enemy after popping it, I have no energy left to do any damage to them. I don't use Shadow Step because it's pointless as combat, especially since I've Shriek and Toss and Deadly Throw. I can keep them in lockdown, relatively locked down anyway. Dirty Tricks. I might not get this. I might swap it out so that I get the blind glyph so that it removes bleeds. I'm not sure yet. But I like how the bleed doesn't break on gouge. I like how I can use Deadly Poison in conjunction with this, so it doesn't break my CC. That's what I like most. Like, I can use Deadly Poisons for increased damage. That's like a 30k dot non-crit, so, you know, over a while that's actually quite decent damage, especially if it crits. And also the nature damage proc from it's actually better than the nature damage proc from instant poison, so if it's a non-healing target, I'll probably use deadly poisons. I might end up getting paralytic or deadly brew, but I haven't really tested much with it, so for now I'm using dirty tricks. And of course shriek and toss. I don't see myself using anticipation because no one's going to let you generate 10 combo points before spending those combo points on the target, so that's really completely useless, especially since finishing moves aren't too great for combat. I mean, they're good, but I mean, Sinister Strike spam's just as good as spamming Eviscerate, to be honest. I mean, if I look at it, Sinister Eviscerate's like, what, 28 damage? 28.8k physical damage? And like, my Sinister Strike does like, what, 22k damage? I mean, I'm better off just using Sinister Strike, especially since it generates extra combo points. I can use them for my other abilities. So I like Shriek and Toss. It's probably one of my new favorite moves. I mean, it definitely beats Fan and Ice Spam, because like that's just lovely how you just instantly kill something. That's basically my setup, and that's how I'm rolling out right now. So to cap it all off, guys, combat changed, but we lost mobility in terms of the sprint, but we gained preparation, which helps a lot. We get Claws and Vanish now as resetting from prep. We can no longer have a blanket stance from our kick, however we can use Vanish Garrote, and Garrote won't break our gouge, it won't break our blinds, which is nice. In general, I think our damage got buffed. I mean, I'm doing a mastery setup up to 30% and then stacking the rest into crit. Now, by the time this season, I'll have 15% crit, but next season I'll probably have 20% crit. Keep in mind, all my enchants and my gems right now are level 85 enchants and gems. If I use level 90 stuff, including if I would get weapon enchants too, I'm sure my crit chance would be much higher. I'm sure I'll do way more damage. But like as said, as it is now, like if I catch an enemy off guard, I'll pop all my cooldowns at once, I can pretty much get like 80 of them down by 80% of their health without high crit chance. Combat right now is lovely damage, a lovely NG regen, lovely in general. Now, I'm stacking 30% mastery, and you're asking why. Combat potency gives 15 energy, and it has a chance to proc every time you get your main gouge up and every time you get your offhand attack up. So if I stack mastery and then stack slice and dice, like if I keep slice and dice up, this actually generates a lot of energy. Like I'll show you right here. In 10 seconds. On top of all that, yeah, combat's just, it's lovely right now, I love it. So I'll show you right now. Here's the turnip. Just ignore the damage, but look out for the yellow, because the yellow is going to be my energy that I get from this stuff. So just give me a sec here. Now I'm going to slice and dice up. Now I'll just watch my energy. 15 energy there. 15 energy there. 15 energy there. 15 energy, 15 energy. Let's say killing spree. 15 energy. 15 energy. And then I get my relentless blades as well on top of that. So I get 25 energy from my 5-point combos on top of everything. 15 energy again. Now I might be missing this thing a bit because it's a heroic mechanical puppet. So if I was actually in PvP right now, I'd be hitting much more often. But as you can see, like the energy regen's pretty solid. Like I was spamming Sinister Strike for most of that time. I pretty much didn't go out of my energy for quite a bit. Considering you're going to be running away, popping cooldowns, and then resetting and stuff, and stunning them. And then remember, you always have your gouge. Like you can pop gouge for 4 seconds and let them sit there while you regen your energy. That's what gouge is for. When you're low on energy, you're going to want to pop gouge, and then you just wait and regen your energy up, and then stun them or use it. What I do is I gouge them, and then I go up behind them and use a shiv, and then I start using my combo points. No, keep in mind, shiv and gouge no longer generate combo points, so they're really purely for CC moves only. And that's basically the theory crafting behind my spec. It works quite well. Main problem I have right now is some classes do insane damage, but I think that's just a beta thing. Like, some classes are just bound to be OP in the beta when they're still balancing everything. In general, I'm quite satisfied with combat. Like, there's lots of changes, as I said, but in general, it's still a decent spec, and in fact, I think the damage is actually better than it was before. One more little thing I want to add, guys, is macros. I'm going to link all my macros down in the bar below, and I'll explain, like, in a little, like, brackets what the macro does. But for now, my main macros that I'm using would be, firstly, I got a Sap macro here. Basically targets enemy player. It's target enemy player, not target enemy, so it won't actually target mobs. Like, see, there's a mob right here. If I spam this, it won't actually target the mob, it will actually only target players around me, and then sap them. I have this separate to my actual sap bar, like my saps 2 and my spammable sap macros 3, because you don't want to be spamming, like, the nearest target. You want to be, like, if there's no stealth targets, you don't want to be spamming the nearest target, you want to select a certain target and sap that. I got a Vanish Sap macro here, where I vanish and then walk over to the nearest, the focus target thing, and I can spam it again and it will sap them. I got focus target blind, focus target kick. Also got an announcement with my kick, so that when my teammate sees it, he knows that the target's kicked. And I also got a blind one too, so that he knows that my target's blinded when I'm playing in 2s. Of course, I call it other events, but and Skype, but you know, having a visual thing there really helps them recognize it if they're really in the heat of the battle. I got smoke bomb. I usually have a macro for my smoke bomb, but I removed it because I end up spamming it too much in duels. I usually say like smokes down or something. I got a Blade Flurry macro. What this does is it activates Blade Flurry, but also you can click it again and it'll deactivate Blade Flurry. Keep in mind Blade Flurry has a 10-second cooldown, so don't spam it too much because you might fuck yourself over. I got Killing Spree macro and an Adrenaline Rush macro. The way I've set these two up is I've done them separately, because I might not want to use my Adrenaline Rush when I'm Killing Spreeing, and I might want to do vice versa. My Killing Spree macro basically uses my /use 14, which is 14 is your bottom trinket slot. So it pops my trinket. It also uses my Virmen's Bite. Keep in mind Virmen's Bite is a potion I get from alchemy, or you can buy them from alchemists. 4,000 agility. I use it for PvP. You can't use it in arena, but it's good for like ganking and stuff. I'll be linking this macro in the bars in the description below as well. I'll be linking all of them. That's my kick one. Where's my adrenaline? Here's my Adrenaline Rush one. With my Adrenaline Rush, I pop Adrenaline Rush, Shadow Blades, and Lifeblood. So I got the haste from Lifeblood plus the heal, I got Adrenaline Rush for attack speed, and I got Shadow Blades for just auto attack damage. And then what I usually do is I pop Adrenaline Rush, and then I pop my Slice and Dice, and then I pop Killing Spree. And then once Killing Spree is over, and then I just keep spamming them with like Sinister Strike or Revealing Strike. Now, one thing you guys want to know is Shadow Blades actually does damage on top of your Killing Spree. So after every Killing Spree hit, it does Shadow Blades as well. So that's like 14 hits of Shadow Blades right there. And Shadow Blades does about the same damage as your Sinister Strike. But on top of that, it doesn't do as much damage, but it does nearly as much damage as Sinister Strike. But on top of that, it's also shadow damage, so it goes through armor, which is really, really handy, especially as combat, because the main issue we have is like going through armor and stuff. Like armor targets are really hard for us. But with Shadow Blades, it means we can take down armor targets like nothing, like bam, dead, you know. Well, not that fast, but you know, it's way better than it was before. What else is there? Also, another thing, guys, what I usually do is I get about 4 or 5 combo points, and then I use my Killing Spree, and then after Killing Spree, I like stun them, or maybe I want to stun them and then use Killing Spree. But no matter what you do, make sure when you use Killing Spree, you have low energy, because during Killing Spree, you'll actually regenerate your energy because you're not using any abilities. So during the length of Killing Spree, you can go from like 20 energy to like 90 energy. That's like 70 energy you can regenerate just from using Killing Spree, and you're still doing damage. So keep that in mind. Use your Killing Spree wisely. I'll link you the macro down below for the 2 macros. I'll link all my macros down below in the description, and I'll put like little brackets for what they do in each macro. And but you want to know is like if you use the adrenaline rush macro and then pop basically adrenaline rush macro and then slice and dice and then pop killing spree and then eviscerate after all that's done. That's basically a one-shot macro for rogues. Like, it's equivalent of the old warrior bladestorm macro. Like, it's seriously going to be a one-shot macro, guys. Especially if you use it on targets that aren't that geared. So, yeah, that's basically it. Anyways, Emo's out. I guess I'll catch you guys later. See ya.